Welcome back, guys, to my podcast, Triggered. Today, I have a very special guest. I have Chava Mercado with me. Welcome, Chava. We are going to be discussing entrepreneur stuff. We got some crazy-ass stories of, I don't even know how to say it, like some crazy injuries and some crazy life-altering events. But you've got some amazing stories for us. You also have some really good marketing information for us. So your tagline, which you have on your Instagram at InstaChava, is going from $7 in the bank account to 7 figures. That's insane.
Yeah, in 12 months. I think that's pretty that's pretty cool.
In Vegas, right? That was
I started that in LA, but most people should never go down all the way to $7.
Yeah.
So let's just say that. Unless you're a kid, under $10, it's okay. But when you're a 30-year-old,
yeah,
having less than $10 in your bank account, I wouldn't say is recommended.
Yeah. But it makes the disparity so much better. It makes that 7 figures sound really good.
Oh, listen, I've been broke and I've been rich, and rich is much better.
I don't know, but I would love to know one day. I mean, rich is all relative anyways, isn't it?
You would probably say that 7 figures would make you above the normal.
Yeah.
Also, broke $7 would probably make you,
$7 is I think everyone says that's pretty broke for across the board. There's no question.
Yes.
Yeah. So, all right. So I have you on the show. I met you where did I meet you at?
We met at a different podcast. We
were at a different podcast. So we're in the podcasting networking world. You had crazy energy. You were wearing a backpack.
Oh, where's my backpack?
You're wearing your backpack with with your InMotion marketing backpack. It basically had the whole
It was an LED backpack.
Backpack.
It was
has advertising. You can clearly tell, and it's marketing. If you guys seen the trucks driving around in Vegas and other cities, it has it's like a billboard on wheels.
Pretty much anything in motion. Yep.
InMotion is marketing, and he owns a million of these trucks.
So we advertise on these trucks, and it's great because most people, when you're driving, you have to look at these trucks.
Yeah.
I always say people are not driving around and looking up and seeing what's going on.
You're that could cause accidents for real, but at least you know where to go, what show to visit, or what restaurant to go to because you got the advertisement. Yeah, that's an amazing business. And
it's good.
And you figured out how to go from one truck to 50 states of trucks.
I mean, it grew because most people were interested in it. So when you're growing a business during the pandemic, if you're starting a business, launching a business, and you survive a world economic, shutdown, we not only, we thrived during that time. Like people were doing deliveries and trucks and everything. So everything sort of worked out for us. And so we've been able to scale it. We don't own the trucks. I like to say we're like the Uber of marketing. So we connect the trucks with the brands and back and forth.
And then you get the advertisement on there. You sell the advertising space.
Correct.
Okay.
And people pay a lot of money to have,
Oh, yeah.
Four-sided, advertising space, but anyways, we collect data, we do a lot of digital stuff, social, and so the company continues to grow, and it was a one-man show at the beginning. It was me doing the whole thing. It was me driving in my car, taking pictures with my phone, and you gotta do what you gotta do, the hustle.
Yeah, so when I first met you, you were like, I mean, I don't know how you just ran into the story, but maybe you just do this when you always meet people. But you're like, I got into business, and it was after my accident where I had a window fall out of a 10-story building and hit me in the head and knock me out, and it was a whole life-changing experience. So I don't even know how to get there, but I need you to tell me your story. You basically told me you were 16 years old. You were a 16-year-old immigrant. You came from Guadalajara, Mexico.
Let's go.
You came to America. You couldn't speak the language. You learned English through Seinfeld episodes or something.
Watching Seinfeld. My stepdad was a big fan of Seinfeld. And yada yada yada. Years later, I'm here. So
you came here and then you end up telling me your first business was a party business. You started in college. You were 18 years old, and you're like, I got to figure out a way to make money. Ship people from San Diego to Tijuana for some shady party business operation.
I mean, when you're in college, all you want to do is pretty much drink, party, and 21 is the drinking age in the U.S. But if you just cross the border, just 20 minutes from San Diego is the Tijuana, and I figured out pretty quickly that people want to pay money to go to TJ. They just didn't know how to get there. So I hired this. At first, it was a party bus, and it was 30, 40 people, and then the next time I did, it was 150 people. The third time I did it, was over 1,000. It just ballooned so fast, so quickly. And so I thought I was going to do that for the rest of my life. I mean, partying, getting people across the TJ. Pretty soon I realized that I was graduating, and years later I was like, I'm pretending I'm going to college. I'm not. I already graduated.
You're good now.
Yeah. People start asking me like, I haven't seen you in class, man. And I was like, yeah. I actually graduated 2 years ago. I just continue to party here in the school.
And run this business?
Yeah. So, I mean, that was my first entrepreneurial kind of like business. And it was very successful. But when you bring thousands of students, I guess teenagers, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, like across the border, incidents happen on the way back, you know.
Sounds shady as
you leave with 1,000, you come back with 997, and you're like, where are the other 3? You know. And so I have hundreds of stories because as the business grew, and then we started getting sponsored by big corporate brands in the U.S. and Monster Energy, and then Universal Studios, and so the business ballooned, like it really grew like really fast. But then with that comes a lot of problems and issues. And when you're young and people paying you in cash, you think the world is yours.
Right.
And that shit just, sorry, YouTube censored me. That just burned quickly. Like
like that money went in and went out of your pocket like instantly?
Really quickly.
Okay.
I mean,
so you spent all of it right away.
Well, it was one of those things where like I take everybody out for breakfast, and people, you know, you'd wake up in a room and there'd be like 16 people sleeping on the floor. I mean, it was really like Van Wilder kind of thing.
Yeah.
You saw that, like
the Van
party
Wilder.
for a living, you know.
Yeah.
Years after I graduated, I was still like that guy who pretended to go to school. So that went well.
Yeah. And that leads to just like a lifestyle of like kind of drinking and partying a lot, right?
It did, with a lot, which was probably one of the reasons why like the business sort of like, you know, went down, because I consider the partying and everything sort of like the priority. The money was fine. The money was great.
Yeah.
But it comes with a lot of responsibility. You know, when the students' parents call you like, where's my daughter?
you don't know?
How do I say this, sir? You know, I mean, there's so many stories about, you know, how I went down on that business. But point being is like, I decided to go into a master degree in event management. Like I didn't know that was actually a thing.
Oh, okay.
You can actually get a master's degree in event planning and management. And
you decided to get your master's?
Yeah.
What
and
for?
So for event management.
But you were already managing events.
Well, yeah, but I didn't have like the actual
like
degree
credentials.
Label. Yeah, and all those things like led me to the $7 to 7 figures, because that was the first business. Then I got another business. Eventually, you know, Pepsi hired me. I moved to LA, and I was a field marketing manager for Pepsi, and that was a really cool job. Yeah. You know, you tour, you know, on a bus, different cities, you know, in you know, basically in California, and music tours.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, okay.
We have this truck where you just like push a button, and like the truck would like opened up, and there'd be like a screen, and the DJ would be in the middle, and everybody would be like partying, and so that was fun. Okay. Yeah, sort of like entrepreneur kind of thing.
Yeah. And you learned like big wigs and branding of big companies.
I was very fortunate that I learned from corporate branding how to do marketing, and then I had kind of like a natural talent of developing with people and having a good time. Then the window thing happened, and you know.
The window thing, you just like casually throw it in there. I want you guys to understand this is like a life altering event, and this is how he introduced me, and this is how I was like, I got to know this guy because a window fell on him. Like I need to know him.
But it was because so when we met, we were discussing about, it was a spiritual healing, and it was something about that. And in the first like 60 seconds, you said something to me that was very open. And so then I said, okay, if this soul is willing to open up so fast, then I can share something in exchange. The window thing, I rarely mention, you know, it has to be more of a personal setting.
So I have a spiritual gift of opening.
Well, or
in that moment I did.
You opened up, and that showed me that you're honest. Most people go with guards around their body. It's this energetic field like around it where
1,000%.
You just can't fucking crack it. You just
Yeah.
can't crack it. And so, but you did, and it was, you know, and it's
do you
rare.
remember what I said? Because I can't remember what.
We were talking about like, first of all, like how our emotions, like you didn't mention the word trigger, but how our emotions really changed our perceptions of things. And because I was doing something for Brain Tap. And we were talking about like how if you change the frequency, you can really change how you feel. And you really like just right off the bat, you like opened up. And so I think you like my backpack too. So I think that was the original that was the original thing. Like you said, that's really cool. I was like, oh yeah, you like it, and that was fun.
Yeah.
So then you share that, and then I share, well, you know, this is what happened to me. You know, I had a change where I said like, I remember now, we were talking about trolls and how that affects people.
Okay.
And so, and you were sharing with me about, you know, how people basically, they're always trolling. And I told you, you know what? I have this thing now that I call the trolling Thursdays.
Oh,
and hashtag troll Thursdays, where like, I just encourage people to troll me on Thursdays.
Oh my gosh.
And I just go like,
sort of remember the conversation.
how it
Because we
started.
talked about a lot in a short period of time. So that's why I'm trying to, but which was cool because you're like immediately vibed. But it was like, I think we were talking about how I wanted to do podcasting for a really long time.
Yes.
And I just got started or I was just thinking about it or just.
You hadn't done a podcast
I hadn't done it yet, but I was like, I'm about to do it.
Yes.
Like,
and I was just like, do it. Forget about your fears.
And I was like,
forget
what about what everyone's going to say? They're going to judge me. It's going to be, all this shit talking. And you're like, no, fuck it all.
No, forget about people. People are always gonna, if they're unhappy, they're gonna project that. So I have the thing about hashtag troll Thursdays, and I told you, like, I encourage people, hey, Thursday's coming up, give me your best shot, and then I read, what people say to me on Thursdays, and it's funny.
You're like where the celebrities read their tweets, their shitty tweets.
But I almost like, I prepare them, like I pent them up, like I shake them, I trigger them, and then on Thursdays I say like, let it loose, let it go. Now you have an enormous following, so
it's not. I haven't used it in that capacity yet. I definitely haven't been like, hey, trolls, come at me like with your best shot. Like I'm sure I could open up that window.
You may be, because your following is so big that you may be reading a lot longer. I read some and they're just, people are funny.
You know what I noticed? Like before I had thick skin, because it's taken me a really, really long time to get thick skin on social media. I would cry over the dumbest, I'm not going to tell you what type of comments I would cry over. But now I have thick skin where I literally will read something that would have definitely offended me. And I'm just like, really? They took the time to type that?
See, and what has changed is not the words, it's not the captions, it's not the letters. What has changed is you. You're the one who's changing. So the words would have been the same 2 years ago and they would have broken you.
They would have broken me.
And so what changes is the person, and you've gone through your own changes. So sometimes something happens in life what makes you change. And so as you were sharing these things and you were being vulnerable with me, I shared about what changed me. I said, listen, like, I think what started was like, if you haven't had a window fall on your head, then you're not having a bad day, which leads us to like the window thing.
Story. Okay.
So basically, that was the punchline. I had a window fall on my head from a 10-story building. I was walking on the sidewalk in downtown LA and a window fell on my head. And so, my day took a turn.
Did I tell you I'm an empath? I mean, I don't know if it's like a trend. Everyone's, I'm an empath. I'm actually an empath. Like I feel energy. Like when someone says something, if you tell me a story and like when you said the window fell on your head, I can like my head feels like a vice on it right now. Like I generally feel things. I'll feel things in my chest. I'll feel things in my throat. Like I sense it.
I don't want you to sense the pain that went through. So for many years,
I'm just saying.
So the physical pain when it happens, and it does, because see, thoughts have a vibration and they get sort of amplified through our voice. And now we have a microphone, so like it gets amplified. So as I'm thinking something, I'm remembering that feeling. Then I'm uttering the words, and then it carries over, and you are accepting that energy. And this is how someone, you could be watching a video of a skateboard and someone jumps and breaks his bone. Like, why do we cringe? Why do we
cringe?
Like we're not feeling it. We know it's not even.
Well, we freaking cringe. Like, oh my God.
It's because they're called mirror neurons in our brain. And so we're able to have empathy. And some people have a higher degree of mirror neurons. They just have a more vast amount. They're called mirror neurons. And
did you learn this through the brain tapping
guy? I've always been fascinated. So my degree, first of all, was in psychology, in clinical psychology.
I didn't know that.
I've always been fascinated by studying the brain and different things.
I wish I would have studied that more because it fascinates me.
It's fascinating. But see, now we have a free library with
now
with
we
YouTube
can share
and everywhere.
ideas. Anyways.
And so like, I'm always been fascinated about like learning and things like that. So the mirror neurons, some people have an amount, other people have more. And so when people do say the things like you said, some people dismiss it because they don't understand that it's factual. Like they're like, it's not like a maybe. It's factual. Some people just have more mirror neurons, and you're able to. Do you know if it feel that?
Is it affected by trauma? Can trauma heighten your sensitivity to it? Because like,
so whenever something happens, it creates pathways in your brain.
Yeah.
And if you relive that moment, that's what. Now we're really like going.
Now we're going deep.
Fuck the window.
Screw marketing. Screw seven figures.
So when people feel something, that's what a resentment is. It really is re-feeling something, and it creates the pathway again and again and again. And just like playing piano.
That's how someone can actually develop PTSD, is if they keep reliving the negative 100%. Yeah.
And so when you live something traumatic, like you did, or an episodic, like, so for me, this is a perfect example. If you're walking down normally, on a downtown street, on the sidewalk, nothing, like any other normal day, and a window falls on your head, you know, and it creates that physical trauma and then psychological trauma. Till this day, like if I'm walking under a construction or building, like something just it like shoots up.
Like 10
absolutely.
out of 10, yeah.
And so, and I joke around, like I cover my head, like what are my hands gonna do if something falls on my head? Like, hey, I'm just gonna break my hand and the neck again. You know, it's it's not gonna help.
Horrific.
So after that happens, you know, I go to a physical therapy and blah blah blah.
How old? Can you just give us a tiny little stage? Like, how old were you? And,
yeah.
Okay.
It happened on November 20th, 2013.
Okay.
I was 20, I don't know, 26, 20.
You were like on your way to a job, right? Job interview?
Yeah, I was starting at a new job the next day.
Okay.
It's funny because I mean, I really needed this job. If this accident, so this is how the universe works. So I now believe there's an architect of creation, and the architect of creation didn't build a staircase leading nowhere. Like there's always a path, but you can't see it at the beginning. You just see the first step, and you're like, hey, where am I going? But you don't know that it's leading towards something. If this accident would have happened 12 hours later, I would have insurance. I would have been covered. I would have been all this thing. And so I was in a position where I had no job. I was just starting a job. And then this thing happened. And I have, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical. And I went to therapy, this whole thing. So
the impact it left at this moment was
when something like that happens, it lingers.
Okay.
It lingers in you, right?
Yeah.
And so then you start feeling resentful towards yourself, towards like, if I would have just checked my Instagram for one more second, if I would have tied my shoelace, if I would have stopped, you know, for not even for coffee, for anything that's 5 seconds later,
the what ifs,
it would have sent differently. Now, what the doctors also said, like, if you would have been taller, if there would have been wind.
That's fucked up. They said that.
Yeah, he's like, because the way it hit you, it's like it just hit exactly precisely above your head. And it flattened you. So like it just like crushed you down. But if you would have been taller, it could have been tilting and it would have just like sliced you.
My God.
If there would have been wind,
told
it would have been
these things?
Yeah, because you I mean, you start processing through these things, you know.
It's a lot.
You have 3 years to go through this shit. So
you got to think about all the scenarios.
So it sucks. It sucks. But once something traumatic happens like that, it lingers.
Okay.
So then what I did, you know, on November 20th, 2016, in that job that I ended up, you know, having, you know, the next day or whatever, I ended up meeting a woman from Guinness World Records. She holds the Guinness World Records for climbing the top 7 mountains of the world. They call the 7 summits of the world.
What's her name? Do you know?
Susan Erschler is her name.
Wow.
She's magnificent.
She peaked all the top peaks in each continent, right?
Correct. The 7 summits of the world. So each of the tallest mountain in each continent. And so she wrote a book. And as she's explaining this, you know, she's also running a business of $300 million business.
What?
And she's summiting these unbelievable mountains, and she's showing these PowerPoint slides of everything, and you know, I'm barely walking because the accident happened, you know, a few months before, and she basically says like, I've climbed the corporate ladder and I've reached the top, and I've climbed, you know, actual, you know, physical, you know, mountains,
world ladder.
and this is much better. And so that triggered me. That was like, I need to do something like this. So she did something that's really important. And to this day, I still hold it. So when was that? 2013, 2014. So it's almost going to be 10 years where I wear a string around my neck. And, and this is called the gold string. And this you'll like. Okay. So when you're climbing Everest, she said, you know, they tie a string around your neck, the Sherpas. Okay. So that they pray for you for a safe, you know, up and return of your goal. So it's almost like a rite of passage where you have a unsurmountable goal to reach. And once you finish it, you cut the string. And so my very first string, I tied my first string, was a blue string over 10 years ago. And I said to myself that day, I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro. Now, mind you, I'm barely walking at this point.
Yeah. You're right after your accident.
A few months, maybe a few weeks. Yeah. I mean, I was still in the job, so it had to be maybe at least a couple of months. But I had this vision. I was like, I'm going to do this. Yeah. And I'm going to physical therapy, and I'm going to all these things. And climbing Kilimanjaro was not, you know, on my to-do list. You know, I barely gone camping. I've never gone camping in my life. You know. Yeah. I'm here about.
It's a huge goal.
Yeah. 19,341 feet. This mountain is high. It's above the clouds.
Oh my gosh.
So as I'm going, you know, I tie that, you know, obviously I climbed it. It was a very important moment in my life. I tattooed Kilimanjaro on my chest.
How many years did it take you to train for it?
Exactly 3 years. So the accident happened on November 20th, 2013. And on November 20th, 2016, 3 years later, I was landing in Tanzania.
That's epic.
So I'm going to Tanzania. because it takes 7 days to get to the top and back. I'm literally on Thanksgiving Day reaching the summit of Kilimanjaro, and there's pictures of me at the summit of Kilimanjaro. And
do we need to?
Do we have something here?
I think we might have a special guest over here in the corner. Did you bring a special?
Wait, not that one. Turn to the other one. Let's see.
I'm so surprised.
All right, so this most people don't realize, but this is me at the top of Kilimanjaro.
Oh my gosh.
So Kilimanjaro is I don't know. Can I grab that?
Yeah.
Can you pass it to
Yeah.
me? Or I guess there's
Africa's highest point, the world's highest.
Wait, you made it. You made it
freestanding.
you made it to the mountain. It's actually better where you had it, to be honest. Here, put it. Can you put it back?
Yeah, put it back.
Are
both sides Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, he doesn't want. And then I'll tell you when to flip it. So Kilimanjaro. So I have this shirt that says "Never Stop."
Yes.
I bought this shirt again almost like 10 years ago. I've only worn it twice. For both mountains that I summited. I summited two of the 7 summits of the world. The first one was Kilimanjaro, and I'm definitely not a climber. I'm not equipped. I lived in LA. I mean, I've never been above 10,000 feet. This is a completely like a never stop kind of feat.
Oh my gosh.
But here's the cool thing: most people don't know that at the top of Africa, there's an iceberg that's 100 foot tall. And so if you flip it, then you see that. This is what the iceberg on top of Africa looks like.
Iceberg straight ahead. Look at you, killing it. Okay, cool.
I was so happy.
Yeah.
So that changed my life.
Yeah.
At that point, I thought that was like it. I summited 3 years after the accident. It's Thanksgiving. My dad had passed away, so I was like, this is the closest I'm gonna be to my dad, and I'm praying, and it's very emotional.
Wow.
But at this point in time, I meet somebody at the summit, and that's a whole different story that you realize eventually why things happen.
Okay.
And that's what we want to come like full circle.
Yeah.
Like the things that happen to you and to many people that, whoever listens to this, like, and most of the times people hate the wrongs that have happened in their lives.
Oh, 1,000%.
And so they live in that regret, they live in that anger, they live in that like, why me?
Yes.
And so, and they're always like, you if you're still in that resentment, is that because you haven't figured out why it happened.
Yeah.
And so once you cleanse that problem and you realize that by helping and talking to another person about it, that's really what matters.
Yeah.
So at the top of this summit, I meet a guy.
Okay, of course you do. There's just cool people hanging out at the top of Kilimanjaro.
This is important. So Kilimanjaro is a seasonal mountain, and many people climb it. I don't want to say like I'm a super expert badass. Nobody goes in November to climb Kilimanjaro because it rains in Africa.
Okay.
And it's horrible to climb, during the rain, at the cold, the level.
Yeah.
For someone without an experience, it's just not a good thing.
Okay.
So of all the companies in the world that do groups, of all the things, like the day that I'm landing over there at the top of the summit, there's another guy that's summiting at the same time.
Okay.
Random guy from Texas. I meet with him. I have my story, the window.
Yeah.
And he takes this purple handkerchief, he takes off his jacket, and I'm crying, and I see him getting emotional, and then I ask him, what's your story? I mean, mind you, we're at freaking 19,900 feet.
Kilimanjaro, so you have a story too, bro. Like,
and he just says to me, like, my daughter was diagnosed with cancer. She was 9 years old.
Oh, no.
And now all of a sudden, like, a window doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you have a daughter, right?
Yeah.
So you can have more empathy.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have a window fall on me than something like that tragic happen.
Gosh.
So as this man and I are connecting, on one of the tallest points on earth, him and I just connected completely at this like deep emotional level, and so we separated. We got each other's numbers, and that was it, right? He went back to Texas, I went back to LA, and I felt like a badass, blah blah. But months later, he messages me and he says to me like, "Hey, we're raising money for kids with cancer. We're rappelling off of the tallest building in Texas. Like, do you want to do it with me?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's go." And I took a flight and I went, and now I've also never rappelled or anything.
Okay.
As we're rappelling off of the W Hotel in Austin, Texas, whatever, it's very emotional. I meet the guy, all the things happen. I actually meet the daughter.
Okay.
Who had gone through, chemotherapy and has survived this.
Yikes.
As you're scaling down this building, there are children at the bottom who are going through chemotherapy.
Oh no.
And they're like cheering for you. They're like
That's so
they're so happy because you raise money for them. So at this point, of all the time that I had Facebook, this is the only time that when I reached the bottom, I cried because when we reached the bottom, the daughter was hugging the kids, and so.
Oh.
And there was no words.
That's the most beautiful thing I've heard.
There was no words. They were just connecting a level because she was saying like, "Hey, I've been through what you've been through," and these kids, they're children who are going through chemotherapy. You can physically see it.
I watched my little sister go through it at 6 months old when I was 5. It's freaking intense.
It's traumatic.
Yeah.
My brother had leukemia when I was 5 and he was 9, so he was older. So so all these things are sort of like bubbling out.
Wow.
And so it's the only time that I took out my phone and I needed to like voice myself. So I went on Facebook Live, and that's the only time. And I'm sure I could probably find that video if it's there. But at that moment in time, 3.5 years later from the window accident, I knew why the window had fallen on my head 3.5 years before. It wasn't so I can climb Kilimanjaro and be a badass. It was so that I can climb Kilimanjaro on that specific day, on that specific moment, so that I could meet this guy. And that months later, I would be raising money to help kids with cancer. And so everything sort of changed for me. At the moment, I was like, oh, okay.
I'm curious to wonder how do you think that all these epic experiences are having an impact on you? And does that propel you into like more riskier or more, do you have more faith in yourself for business? Do you have more faith that universe is just going to drop money in your pockets? Like what about these impactful experiences helps you think, be a good business owner and a good coach?
I know the universe is gonna drop more money on my path because I attract it.
So kind of trying to get to how, because to me, I don't know if we want to get to the story where you went down to $7. Maybe we should go there. Because to me, you getting down to $7, because you told me the story, it's like you went, it was like quarantine, shut down. Small business owners are having to go through this all over the country, and they're seeing their money bank account go down, maybe panicking about their business strategies, whatever. Maybe they're panicking going online. But you saw the money go down and you didn't panic to the point that you like, oh, I got to go back and work a 9 to 5. A lot of other people would do that. They go to what's safe. They go to what they know. They go to like what's steady. Oh, I'm going to get benefits. Like, to me, I've worked nursing. I didn't work corporate, but I worked nursing, which to me is kind of corporate. And, they dangle the carrot in front of you. Oh, you just need to stay here for 5 years, for 10 years, 20 years, and we'll give you 401k and this and that. And I'm like, I feel like I should make more than what you pay me. I think all the nurses there should get way more than you pay them. And the doctors, there's no question in my mind that we're undervalued and underpaid. And I've known that for so long that to me, when that little carrot is dangled in front of me, I'm like, ugh, get it away from me, because I want financial freedom. I want to be my own boss. I want to use the free education we have out there to build to continue to be creative, right? Creative in business, creative in life, creative in my time, learning more. You can't do that when you're stuck in a job like that.
No, so most people never venture out.
Right.
Most people stay in that circle of comfort. Most people want to have the steady job, the paycheck, the benefits. The reality is that you're more likely to be successful if it depends on you. But most people never venture out, because I've lost jobs. I've gotten fired from jobs, but I'm not firing myself yet. From my businesses.
Not firing myself yet.
Yeah, and so if I take into my own affairs, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have sort of control in my life, but I'm gonna trust that there's a guiding force behind it. And so it all comes full circle to what happened after the window. After it happened the window, then I did the fire walking. So I walked on fire.
What's the fire walking story?
So the Unleash the Power Within, that's with Anthony Robbins. And a lot of people, thousands of people have done this. It's an amazing experience.
The Tony Robbins experience.
Tony Robbins experience. You walk on fire. It's amazing. I recommend it to every single person in my family. It's just an incredible experience. What it does is not oh my God, I walk on fire. What it does is that it removes mental barriers. See, you've never walked on fire, right?
I haven't walked on fire.
Okay, so when I say that...
Don't crucify me for it, but it's on my bucket list.
Perfect. But when I say I walked on fire, most people are like, did you really?
Was it hot coals? Was it
Yeah, it is hot coals, but there's 1600 degrees hot coals. I mean, they're burning red.
1600?
Yeah, they are extremely hot. You can...
I've been in an ice bath. Yeah. That's kind of a...
It is. Have you done cryo?
No, but I've done ice baths at 30, 40 degrees.
Listen, the cryo goes to negative 200.
Oh.
And 3 minutes of cryo is equal to 15 minutes of the ice bath, of the ice water. And that's a tip for you, because
The only reason I'm telling it to you, it's definitely under firewalking, is that I have experienced on a microscopic level mental strength.
Yes.
For a very, like, you think that, for 2 to 3 minutes, the power that you gain from that to know that you got through those 2 to 3 minutes, it's very hard to describe to someone.
It's incredible because
you block everything out. There's not a worry in your mind other than the fact that you're kind of cold.
Your reptilian brain kicks in, and that's a whole different thing.
But like every anxiety,
everything's about survival. So everything else shut down because you're only focusing on staying alive.
You cannot have anxiety while sitting in the water.
If I put you underwater and I step on you, are you gonna be thinking about rent?
There's not a single anxiety in the world other than like, how do I
need to breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the main thing.
And you also listen to your breath, like for
100%.
you've never heard it before, and you're like we breathe all day long. I don't ever hear. Do you hear your breath when you're like?
So, I'm cautious of my breath.
Right
you should follow Wim Hof.
No, I do.
Okay, perfect.
But I only just realized because I started doing ice baths now every day for like the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And they're not as cold as I'm sure he does all the like in the glaciers.
He is crazy.
He's crazy. And he goes forever. But I really do feel the benefits.
There is.
Well, they say that it increases your dopamine more than cocaine does.
Woo! Don't get me started.
I don't love cocaine, but I do like dopamine. I love anything that gets you a good dopamine.
Yeah. So that will do it.
And I come out of there and I'm literally feeling like so rejuvenated, so alive, just from sitting in cold water for 2 or 3 minutes. And I'll be like driving somewhere 15 minutes later, like on the way to the gym or somewhere else. I can still feel my body like tingling up in my brain. I feel happy. I feel buzzy. I feel kind of high, a little bit.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
okay,
do me a favor.
You walked on fire. I didn't go.
But what I was going to say, like most people don't think that that's even possible. They doubt it. And so that is the whole point of walking on fire. That once you do that, then all of a sudden, like, well, what else did I think I couldn't do that I can do?
Yes.
So I didn't think I could make $100,000. And so this was my experience. I was like, could I ever make $100,000? I can't make $100,000. I'm making $36,000, $42,000. I went to Tony Robbins and I remember he said, like, if you don't make your money's worth, I'll give it back to you. So I went to Tony Robbins. I walked on fire. Within 4 weeks, maybe, I got a $15,000 bump. So I literally got a 15x on my investment on Tony Robbins. So I paid $1,000 for this ticket, which I barely had. I was making like $42,000. And then I remember I gained the confidence to go to my boss and say, this is why I deserve this. Boom, 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 boom. During my lunch break. 20 minutes later, I come back. He's like, you just got a $15,000 raise. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, this works. Now, nothing had changed. Yeah. Like I didn't get an additional degree. All of that I got was the confidence that I knew I deserved it. So once Tony Robbins sort of cracked the code that for me, then I continued doing it. I was like, okay, if you work for $15,000 more, can I actually make $100,000 in a year? And this was like mind bending at that point. Like, can an immigrant come in here and make $100K and make it? So then I did.
$100K to me used to be like impossible. That was like doctor's wages. And
a year, correct?
Yeah.
So once I crossed that, it was like, holy crap. And this is when it really like shattered my belief, my ceiling of limiting beliefs. Can you make your annual salary a monthly salary?
That's what you asked yourself? Or
I heard it in what do we call these?
Podcasts?
No, it's not podcasts. We meet with all these people.
Conventions.
Yes. Yeah, sure. Okay. But it wasn't the Tony Robbins ones. It was a different one.
So this is the question you asked yourself?
Well, the question that they were asking me is like, can you make your yearly income into a monthly income? And immediately my mind said, fuck no. How am I going to make $100K a month? Are you nuts?
Yeah.
And so there was a pause, and then the guy says like, if you're thinking already no, then the problem is you, and it's not the money. And it was like he was talking to me. He's like, if you already answered the question no, it's your problem.
You've blocked it.
Yes. And so I was like, huh. So you fast forward, I've made $100K a month, and I'm like, huh. Well, can I then not make like, you know?
Yeah. How soon after this experience did you start rolling out that money? I want to know how this attraction works.
It works really fast and works really well.
Okay.
But then I had some destructive years, and I got into alcohol and drugs and party, and so my life sort of, went into the shitter. So getting into the $7 to 7 figures to come full circle with the whole thing. How did I go from $7 to 7 figures in 12 months?
Well, wait, you got down to $7 because you were invested in something and your money dropped during COVID, right?
Right. So as I started a business, I started InMotion Media Group. And it was a business about putting ads on trucks.
Yep.
Because I was like, listen, I'm in LA. I'm always in traffic. I always see these trucks. And to me, it was like a white canvas. I was
Yep.
like, I bet I could sell ad on these trucks. And it was just a kind of thought.
Yeah, you figured it.
And at that point, I was making 6 figures on my yearly income, on my salary for the company that I was working for. And I was like, man, maybe I can make $20,000 more. Now, the difference between 100 and 120,000, it's big, right?
Yeah.
For somebody. And that's all I wanted. And so I said, maybe I can do 3 trucks in 1 year. I'll make $20,000 more. Well, my first order comes in and it's 20 trucks. And I don't have 20 trucks to sell.
Yeah.
So I'm scrambling because I'm a one-man show. I'm working 70, 80 hours a week in my company. Not in my company. In the business in the company that I was working for.
Yeah.
And I'm starting this side hustle business.
Yeah.
So this business like takes off.
Yeah.
But it's during the COVID years as everything is happening.
Okay.
And so all of a sudden I'm making more money on this side hustle that I'm making
your main job
on my main job, but like substantially more.
Yeah.
So
that's what happened to me in nursing. I this is not nearly as much as you, but I saw.
I don't know. We should compare bank accounts later.
No, not even close. Not even freaking close. You're gonna consult me on all my businesses. You're gonna help me scale all my businesses.
I'd love to.
We're gonna do that, and then we'll come back and let everyone know.
And show evidence. And so this is actually important that you're mentioning this because there's people that make money about talking about making money. And so there's a leap of faith in that, right? You are successful on the things that you've been doing and you have multiple businesses and you're generating income. And it's one thing for me to say like, oh, I made money and this is what happened. So I'll finish with this point. Like there's a lot of people that talk the game and they can't really back up unless you have something to show it. And this is why my story comes in where like, I literally went from like investing myself fully in this business, getting fired from the company that I was working for. It wasn't just me. I shouldn't, it's not like I was a bad employee. It's like they made a change and 100 people lost the job in the company and everything changed. At that point, I had to make a decision. Do I get another job? Do I go to the safe route? Do I go on LinkedIn? Hey, I'm looking for a job. Or do I invest 100% in my company?
Yeah.
And so I went full in my business. And I said, I'm all in motion. Let's go.
Yep.
And I remember I got, March 1st of 2020, I got an office in LA. I was like, I'm going all in. Yep. And I paid 6 months in advance for this office. And then the world shuts down 2 weeks later.
Oh my God.
And where our office is, it was the pinpoint of where the shit show happens, for COVID. This is the stuff that you would see in the news where people stop the traffic right in the middle of downtown LA, hop on the top of the car, and then they started like barricading the walls. Like, yes, right in the triangle, 405. Yeah. And right there from our office, we could see like
all the
people running. People are like, oh my God, people are like getting on top of their cars and they're just like refusing to fucking drive anymore. They just stopped driving. Yes. And so they started looting and everything. So they shut down. I didn't even have access to my own office. So, but the company went through that and grew and grew successful. And so as I was going through that, my bank account started dropping from, I had some savings, like 6 figures, 100K or something like that. This is where resilience comes in. It went from 100,000. It's nice to have 100K in your bank account, nice. Right?
Yeah, but not when
most people will not even relate to that.
But not when it's dwindling.
But when it goes to like 90K, you're like, okay, well, it's fine. It's going to work. And then 80K and then 65K. Now, when it gets to 50K, you reach like the danger zone because your brain is telling you fucked up. Right. You did not make the right choice. You're losing money a lot faster than it's coming in, and nobody's working. The world's kind of, and so it keeps dwindling down at 50,000, and then 30,000, and then 20,000. So at this point, when it's at 10,000, I'm all in at this point. Yeah. Like my shirt, shirt said.
When you say you're all in, so you already had purchased what you needed to do for like the trucks and the advertising business.
I'm investing in the business and buying frames and the trucks and this.
But you're waiting for someone to purchase the trucks.
I'm just saying, all right, God.
They haven't yet.
No, I'm just saying, all right, God, you're gonna.
How long was this going on for? 6 months?
Close to like 7 or 8 months until I got my first account. God. So as it happened, I was like, this.
Were you getting panicked?
Yes, it happens. Did you have
faith the whole time, or were you getting panicked?
I had faith, and I had panic, and so
I had panic.
If I didn't have faith, I would have stopped it and I would have gotten a job.
Yeah.
If I didn't panic, I would be bullshitting. Fear
be on the street.
Fear sets in, and so as this is happening, I kept trusting it. And here's the crazy thing. I went down to, $1,000, $100, and it went down to like less than $8. So I had like $7 and something in my bank account. This is everything. I had $7 in my bank account. At this point, I had asked money from my friends, from other people. Like I was like, if you guys can just spot me like for 30 more days, I promise something's gonna happen. I'm gonna pay you back. I have these contracts in place. Crickets, fucking crickets.
Oh my God.
And so there was a company out of Newport that they said, we'll buy out your company, but we'll own, 60% of the company. Whatever comes in, we'll take it. And I was basically gonna become an employee of my own business before I even started.
Yeah, hell no. Hell no.
So they sent me this contract, and it's like 16 pages, and I signed it. I signed the 16 pages, and I put them on the table, and I went and I got on my knees and I prayed that night, and I said, I hope I'm making the right decision. So this is what happens to, and this is what I'm saying, like most people never get to that level. It takes certain kind of resilience. So when you have $7 in your bank account and it's COVID and everything is going on, I promised my girl, there was a burger joint down the street from my house, and it had this big neon sign that said like $8 lunch combo. And now I can joke about it, but I used to get me really emotional, because I used to say like, baby, one day I'm going to be able to afford and take you there. Because I literally don't have fucking $8. So before we show that, I want to flip to the other thing.
Oh my gosh.
And before we show that, I want to show this.
You guys are so prepared.
So the day that my client before that I signed those checks, that I signed those contracts.
Yeah.
The very next day, something came in the mail, and it was
the
next day, because I already had it signed. It were on the table.
You're one of God's people for sure.
And so my very first paycheck for my company is right there. That's my first paycheck, is
to almost $250,000
from my first company. And so if you look in that bag, GC, can you pull something out of that bag, out of my small bag?
You got more.
This one, no one's ever seen, and I almost get embarrassed and I hide it.
I feel so honored. You're sharing all your
can you pass me that, please? This is the actual check, and I have it hung on my wall.
Oh my gosh, I love that you keep these things. By the way,
you can't tell who it is, and the camera can't see who it came from.
I know, but still, it's amazing. It's a check, first check for his InMotion business, which is now like killing it. Can you tell us how it's doing? Give us some numbers. Or
we do millions in sales.
You do millions.
Yeah.
Per year.
Per year.
Okay. Damn. How much per month? Are we talking more than 100,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
But
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Fuck yeah.
but here's the thing, like most people talk about this, but most people don't have the business, and it takes a certain level of resilience to really get through.
And also be able to have a risk-taking mindset, and to not have the scarcity mindset.
No, I knew it was coming.
You had scarcity, like evidence of scarcity, but you didn't have the mindset. The mindset would be, my money's dwindling. I got to hurry up and get a normal-ass job, or some job that's not this, right? Because this looks like it's going down to the toilet. And you're like, no, this is a good idea. I need to wait whatever for God to land me a contract.
I'm so grateful and thankful to the universe.
Yeah.
The money comes to me now in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis.
That's insane.
So,
and
that's what I would.
So when you help people scale their businesses, are you helping them unlock this potential?
Yes, because most people have a mental ceiling. So
does everyone have this potential?
Everybody has a potential, and
for stuff like this.
Yeah, and listen. What I'm doing is, first of all, I didn't invent this business. There's people who were doing it before me.
Yeah.
Why am I more successful? Because first of all, I'm fearless. Like whenever I have a shit day, I was like, well, a window didn't fall on my head. It's an okay day,
So you're fearless since the window event.
Oh, because now I understand. No, I was very fearful since the window. I'm fearless since I rappelled down and I saw the kids hugging. Because then I realized that they are really going through stuff that I can never fathom.
Okay, yes.
And so they show me real courage. They are clapping me for rappelling down a building when they're 6 years old, going through chemotherapy and have cancer.
Yeah.
I can't compare anything that I'm doing with how the heroes in those children. And so once the architect of creation showed me the path and be like, hey, listen, let me drive this for you, and I'll take care of this. If you flip this next picture behind it, so that $8 thing, I went and I took my girl. Now she's my fiance. And the first thing that I bought with that $250,000 check was an $8 burger.
Yes, let's go.
Now, you can see the man in those eyes. I mean, that's a troubled man that has just gone, that had lost $100,000 in the last like 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's struggling.
Yes.
I mean, and that's the first thing I bought.
Yeah.
You know, and from there on, the company has been, you know, growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so amazing. This is super exciting. So guys, if you want to reach out to someone who's super inspirational, but also knows how to help you scale your businesses, unlock this crazy abundant potential that apparently we can all have, and a fearlessness that we can have, like a courage, like this is fascinating to me because I want people to understand my show is not about money and making money. Like to me, the person behind the success is really interesting. Like I've met rich people, I've met billionaires, like not all of them are interesting and not all of them do I connect with. A lot of them I don't. And it's not the money that I like connect with. It's just the fact that there's people that can attract the money and they can have that good heart and then they can like somehow the money comes at them in a way that's effective, in a way that's like you're helping other people like reach their potential. Like that's cool to me.
That's the coolest thing.
All of that is energetically really cool because there's people that make lots of money that don't give a shit about helping anyone else make money. In fact, they will step on everyone's toes to make their money and become like this whatever, like crazy rich person. And there's nothing about that that's attractive. That's an insanely not cool person to me. But you're not like that. And that's why I really like meeting people that prove that you can have heart and soul. You can be like wealthy and still have heart and soul. And in fact, you can attract your wealth because you have heart and soul. You know what I'm saying? So that dynamic is very interesting to me. The person, the soul behind it, the story behind it. And also seeing that like sometimes God blesses people that deserve it. That's cool to hear. You know what I mean? Like that you went through that with the kids and you saw their heart and you helped them out. Like the universe should give it to you. Why not? You know what I mean? Like we look at people that are rich and like, oh, why do they have it and I don't have it? And it's just a scarcity mindset, this jealousy mindset. But it's like, do we even know the story behind that person, where they were? The Tony Robbins, do we know his story? Do we know like all these other people?
His is brilliant.
Yeah.
So the reality is that
you think, wow, thank God that person has that. Because look at him. He's sharing his knowledge and his experience with the whole world. Like he didn't have to do that. He could hoard his money. You know, he could just sit on his islands. And
there are people who have abundance and there are people who are rich. I want to be abundant.
Yeah.
Like I want to have like well-being, health. I want to wake up without regrets. I want to go to sleep without fear.
Yes.
Like I don't want to have resentment.
And you can live.
I've never seen a U-Haul following a hearse. You know, people don't take their money after they die.
No, I just think it's amazing because I also find this in people where you have the epitome. It's kind of a biblical story. Like I have a lot of biblical knowledge, so sometimes I'll take little pieces of like wisdom from there and apply it, kind of like a proverb. And what I've noticed is that the coolest people I've ever met can be abased or abound. They can live like a shithole and still be a good person, and they can also be abundant and be a good person. Those people that have done both are amazing to me. Like they will be fine. You'll be fine. Like if a world shuts down again and we don't need trucks anymore, you will be fine. Like in my opinion,
I'll pivot.
You'll literally pivot and you'll kill it with something else.
Yeah.
So I need to be around that energy. That I like learning from people like that. You know what I mean? Like I want to know what you know, because in our life, we only get our path, right? We only get our own experiences. So why in this life, now we're connected through podcasts, through social media.
This is why we connected. See, I
want part of what you have.
I wasn't even supposed to be in that podcast room where we met.
Yeah. I wasn't either.
I was at a different hotel and then they, on the spot, they say, hey, you want to come? We're going to this podcast. We'll invite you. And we're like, sure.
Yeah.
On my way there, I was interviewing the doctor and we were doing content for his company. Like I was no idea.
It's kind of random.
The same thing that happened in the mountain, the same thing. Like, it's happened to me multiple times in my life.
Which is probably why you're so open to it. Because you're already like,
I love this. I want to attract it.
Yeah.
I want to attract abundance to my life so that I can help others. That's the whole.
It's so cool.
That's the whole purpose of life. You know, the purpose of living is giving. And the moment that you.
That's a good one.
The moment that you start giving, you know, the universe. I mean, you talk about biblical. Remember the three kids who plant the seed, and one of them hides it, another one like multiplies it, and then the one who's keeping it away is like, you know, God will take away if you hide it.
Whatever you've been hidden is going to be taken away from you.
But if the one who's actually giving away is going to get twice rewarded,
multiplied. Yes,
correct.
I love that story.
So But that actually happens.
Yeah. But I read you always learn like like super great pieces of wisdom on memes, but like I read a meme somewhere and it was like saying that the most happiness you could possibly feel is not when you gift yourself, but when you gift others. So when you take your richness, your wealth, whatever that contains, whatever money that contains, and you use it in a way to give back to others, like you literally release dopamine and like you have all types of like good feeling chemicals, and it's like what we're meant to do. And like I like money, but what I've always liked about money is that I can give it to others. I like in my little circles, if I meet dope ass people, I can give it to them, or people in need in my circles, I can give it to them. That act is what I live for.
What you just said, like what we are meant to do, that is the whole point of it. So we are created by a higher being that gives us pleasure by helping others.
Yeah.
It's almost like a pyramid scheme of giving. You got to give it away to keep it. And the more you give, the more you help. This is the same reason why if you're in your car and an old lady falls down and someone runs and picks her up, you will feel good. Even if you are not the person doing it. Watching something good, something helpful. This is why these videos go viral when someone helps another person. This is what, like, this happens. Have you seen that video of a guy that walks up to an old man and says like, "Hey, you want to go to Disneyland?" And this old man is like, "Huh?
He's like, are you kidding me?"
Why do we feel good? Why are millions of people sharing that video? We didn't take them.
Right.
We didn't go on the rides. It's because we're designed. It's because we are designed to our innermost cells inside our DNA. It is just like our reason is to help others. That is the purpose of our lives, to help others. But most people take, and then.
But what I learned from your story, and kind of want to like highlight on here, and like things I've learned in my life, but particularly yours, because you have so many different business ventures that you've started and like pivoted and stopped and restarted, is that you're not afraid to fail, and you're not afraid to pivot, and you're not afraid to drop. Like that to you is just a signal to try harder, try different. Maybe you're like, oh, I need to learn a lesson real quick, or maybe I need to climb a mountain real quick. Like you're just like, you don't take it so personally, and you don't take it in a like, I'm gonna beat myself up and go into a depression. Like maybe I'm sure you had depressed days, but there's people that let that inner critic or that overwhelm them to the point that there's no resilience. So other than obviously believing in God and meditating, that kind of thing, and experiencing it firsthand how it's worked in your life, it's just really interesting to me to see that you have that, because there's been times in my life I do not believe I'm worthy of whatever I want. I might want something.
You got to work on the inside of you.
But I would always I used to have that scarcity, and I probably still do to a degree, a scarcity mindset where I would want something or desire something or think like, how cool would it be if I could do this, or how cool would it be if I could do that? But I would never like believe you absolutely can. Like I wouldn't just say that out loud. I'd be like, oh, maybe, sort of, kind of.
And not just can. Do you really want to? Let's ask a blunt question. Would you want to be a millionaire, a billionaire?
Not billionaire.
See, then you won't be, and that's the reality. And I'm not saying this in a derogatory name or something. I probably don't want to be a billionaire too, because I know the responsibility that carries.
Yeah.
And most people who see somebody who's successful, oh, he's got this, and that. All right, let's say I grab my success, put it in my pocket, and then send it to you and give it your way. What are you going to do with employees? What are you going to do with this business? How are you going to run all these things? Like, the companies would collapse if you take whatever you know from your experience and your knowledge and you give it to someone who doesn't have it, who's just jealous, who's just talking shit on your Instagram or whatnot. They haven't walked the path that it takes. That's what makes you rich. It's a rich mentality.
Yeah.
It's like the path that it takes to get there is what makes you a millionaire. That's why millionaires can go broke and then they become millionaires again.
Yep.
Because they have a millionaire mindset.
Right.
It's not the money itself. It's the mindset that they can do it.
They told themselves they can, and they keep going.
And that's how I know I can scale multiple businesses to 7 figures, because I know it can be done. When I didn't think it was even possible.
Yeah. It's so cool. It's fascinating. Like, I'm so happy you're sharing this with me, and we're definitely having more meetings. Okay. You got to help me scale some of my businesses, and I can't wait to share the details. But this is amazing. It was such a good conversation. Like, we sat down in a coffee shop. I knew we were going to have a good one, but like we tapped into stuff that I was happy to talk about.
What's crazy is that I mean, we both live in Las Vegas. We both live in the same neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
How is it that we met at that exact moment? And it's probably weeks ago that happened, and now we're sitting here and discussing these things.
Connections are like random like that.
And it only happened because you felt open. I'm gonna tell you, a lot of people see my backpack, and a lot of people and a lot of people make comments on it. Not many people see the backpack, make comments, and then open up like you did. So you initiated this interaction. So you have to understand that. If I end up helping you, you need to understand that like you initiated the help. Like you just said hi to me and say, hey, that's cool.
Yeah.
What do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a marketing guy. This is my Instagram account. And you're like, oh, that's funny. And then all of a sudden we're talking about like deep shit.
Yeah.
And now we're here.
I've been very open. I will say one thing that I've been on a journey. Obviously I was on my like healing journey, my trauma healing journey, but I've been on a journey of like trying to reach the next potential of like, energetically, emotionally, being more vulnerable, being more relatable, being more open, and learning from people. Like my whole like journey lately is like, there's each person, like you said, if they're open to it, they have something some drop of wisdom to share. And I'm like fascinated by finding those drops of wisdom and finding those drops of connection, because I don't know, in my opinion, the world we live in, there's not a ton of people that want to connect, but there is a ton of ways to meet people to connect.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can walk around meeting people all day long and not connect with anyone. I lived in LA. I didn't connect with anyone.
Wait, where did you live in LA? Were we neighbors there too?
I thought LA was the worst place to try.
I lived in LA for 8 years.
It wasn't our time.
Where were you in LA?
I was in Playa Vista.
Were you? I was in the South Bay, and then I was in Marina del Rey. So
it wasn't our time. Now
this is what I mean. This is what I mean. Like,
but
we probably crossed paths. We just didn't cross paths at the right time. And that's how it had to happen.
Yeah, I have other stories like that.
Read the book, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven.
The 5 People You Meet in Heaven?
It's an incredible book.
That sounds amazing.
I'm gonna give you
books.
a book list recommendations, like several.
You should write a book. Are you going to write a book?
I've gotten asked that a few times.
I mean, you know what? Just come on my podcast and share all your juicy details on here. I'll capitalize off of you.
Let's go. I'm fine.
Yeah,
Listen,
it's fun,
if we can help other people, that's great. The 5 People You Meet in Heaven is about people that you cross paths with that change, or you change their lives, and it's not necessarily
Can I say
your
something
kid,
super
your
vulnerable?
parents, your mom.
I want to say something super vulnerable to you right now.
Okay, go.
So I would love to be one of the 5 people that someone meets in heaven. I don't know why. I don't know if this is just like my inner child needs attention or validation. I have this thing where when I meet people, I want to leave a lasting impact. I don't know if this is fucking sick. I literally will think, what would people say about me at my funeral? Is that fucked up?
Well, you're looking for external validation on something that's not needed?
I would literally,
Here's a better exercise for you.
I've literally thought, have I impacted whoever it is? And like, it's usually people I love, not just randoms, but people I love in my little circles. Have I impacted them enough with enough love and connection for them to literally love me if I'm sick or dying? Like, is that... I don't know. Do you think like that?
It's not morbid. Here's what a better question for that would be.
But it's just because I desire love and connection so much.
Well, that's external validation. But once you're dead, you're dead.
I don't even care. I'll be in heaven though. Let's hope.
You will. You'll hang around. You're hanging around with the peeps. What an exercise for you would be like, write your own eulogy. Like, what would you say to yourself if you died?
But the thing is, I don't believe those things.
You don't believe what? In dying?
No,
in writing?
I don't believe. I don't like love telling myself good things about myself. That kind of creeps me out.
That needs to change. That needs to
but
go
I
away.
like when other people do.
Yeah, well, listen, a lot of people can give you benefits and you're successful and beautiful. You have a great family.
You know what I mean when it's a real connection. You could tell the difference when it's bullshit. You can hear bullshit compliments and be like, okay, whatever.
If you move to a deserted island, other people are not going to come with you. You need to understand that you have to be your best friend. You need to start.
I'm getting there.
You need to start looking at yourself in the mirror in the morning and do what I did many years ago, which is look in the mirror and say, I like myself. I like myself.
I like myself. But
I still you probably like you kind of look on the side. You don't want to look in the mirror. Like, I like myself.
Bitch, put on some more makeup.
Yeah, I like myself. Wait, that hair is not looking right. Oh shit, my skin is dry. You just have to look at yourself and do it, and then eventually you're gonna start smiling at yourself in the mirror. And I talk to myself in the shower, and I say like, I tell myself that I'm the greatest and fun. And people think I'm crazy, but I've been doing this for years.
Yeah,
where I just say really good things about myself.
I don't think it's crazy anymore. I literally. Because I've been on this whole thing. You got the whole spectrum, right? You got people that are like hate themselves, self-loathing, and then you got like the narcissist, right? It's a whole spectrum. We're all somewhere on that spectrum, or maybe we used to be there and now we're here, whatever.
See, but narcissism has to do with you feeling above other people.
I don't feel that I'm above other people.
When you love yourself,
it's different.
all you care is about showing it to other people.
Yeah. Sometimes
I want to show that I love myself because exactly what we're doing right now. Like the fact that you're struggling by you saying these nice things about yourself, I need to like get you out of that fucking mind frame.
Which is crazy because I am the biggest cheerleader of everyone else.
Correct, but you are the most important person in your life.
Yeah.
The very simple example of like when the plane is going down, what do they say when the plane is going down?
You gotta put the oxygen on yourself first before your friend.
Because you have to help yourself first.
Yeah.
There's other guiding principles that I know that like you can't pass on what you haven't got.
Yeah.
How are you gonna teach your daughter love if you don't love yourself?
Yeah, that's been huge for me. She has been huge in teaching me to love myself because then I will model it for her. I'll show her this is how you love yourself. That is the strong
thing. So read Brian Tracy's The Psychology of Achievement. And
I need both these books.
And if anything, read the first few chapters. These were transformational in my life. Incredible transformational.
Okay.
The first 2-3 chapters.
Can you say it for me one more time?
The Psychology of Achievement.
The Psychology of Achievement.
By Brian Tracy. He then wrote it 20 years later, the new psychology. Forget the new one.
Okay.
Listen to the 1980s one, which is old ass book.
Okay.
But in the first chapters, it all talks about like loving yourself.
Yep.
And then it talks about kids. It talks about like how to raise your children so that your only job as a parent is to have them have good self-esteem so that they can get bullied, so that they can fall into drugs. That is your job as a parent.
This has been so important to my parenting. Like in my journey of like my therapy and my self-help and all that, when I was told that the way you talk to yourself and the words you tell your daughter now is going to be her inner voice for life, that was the most pivotal thing I'd ever heard, is that if I don't make her feel like she's amazing, she's loved, she's special, she's smart, that's what's going to run in her head. We have an internal dialogue in here telling us what the hell, like, you clearly believe in yourself, and I'm over here like, I don't know, I need someone to tell me. I want her to have that because I've gone my whole life, I'm 37, and I'm struggling I believe it to a degree, but I don't believe it enough that it's internal.
So two words for that to your daughter.
It's not my autopilot, but I want her to be, I can see myself give it to her, no problem.
But you can practice it so that it becomes autopilot. So there's two words for that. Unconditional love. That is your main responsibility as a parent. And the way you teach unconditional love is that when you reprimand them, when they do something that's wrong, when you spank them or you put them on timeout or whatever it is, you say, hey, no matter what you do, I will always love you. It doesn't matter what you'll do. Mommy and daddy will always love you.
She gets that.
That is what builds a person's character.
Yeah.
That is when someone says like, hey, you want to take this drug? You'd be like, no, I don't need that approval.
No. Yeah.
Unconditional love, it is the strongest thing. And I received that from my mom. And so, I mean, I genuinely was raised in unconditional love from my mom. It is like as close as a spiritual relationship.
It's crazy to me when I get into these and I start to figure out where people's inner voice comes from. Your inner voice probably comes from your mother. Like
she's an angel on earth.
Aww.
And the closest.
But your parents do so strongly affect the human you're going to become and the belief system you have about yourself and the world. Like, it's so powerful to me that like you can be a grown ass adult. Like, I'm talking 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and everything you are is from what your parents kind of did or didn't teach you.
But you can't blame mommy and daddy.
Oh, no. I'm not there.
I learned that too. Listen, at some point
I had to forgive them with every ounce of my being and release them of any pain and
of course,
and forgiveness. That was the biggest part of my healing journey.
It's what they say. Resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other thing I learned too is that like, because there is a part of your life where you kind of hold on to anger, right? You had like After the Window, and
it was more like,
maybe even
why did this happen?
Yeah, I had a lot of resentment, and mine was just like internal for so many years. And I was like, it wasn't until it started coming out in like little bouts of like PTSD or anger, or like defensiveness, like aggression, whatever, verbal like arguments, that I saw it. And when I released it, I was like, oh my God, like people think when they hold a grudge that they're protecting themselves. Like, nobody's going to hurt me ever again. That's not how it works. You're actually like causing your body disease, like dis-ease. Like you have
Correct.
you have like tension in your body, your blood pressure's all high, your chemicals are all messed up. Like you're holding so much pain, and it's not even protecting. Like, you think you're so tough and badass. You're not. You're like, your armor is like keeping you in a prison.
So,
and you reflect it off on people, And I had to learn this. This is why I'm sharing this with people. So if you think you're a tough Billy badass, like that, oh, I got armor, nobody can break this armor, I'm not gonna let anyone in, I'm not gonna let anyone love me, like you're actually doing yourself like the biggest disservice. That armor.
Stress is not something you can buy. It's not something it's something that you keep yourself, and it manifests physically. You felt it to a degree which really paralyzed you, right? Most people don't get to that level, so they may not understand like how paralyzing stress and anxiety can get to. Here's another book, Untethered Souls.
Oh, I love that book.
So we have these pain points inside, and we have to remove them, otherwise they stick inside of us, in our souls, in the chakra. They're just always there,
energetically
and you
stuck.
have to remove them.
Yeah.
Once you remove them, you can heal. You can move on.
Yeah.
We're getting into like the esoteric.
Oh my God,
stuff,
we're gonna get there. I know it's, you know what, we can keep going forever because it's so much goodness to talk about. But I'm glad we did get there, because I like to get on the energetic field. I like to get the spiritual stuff. I think it's super fascinating, and not everyone talks about it. So, anyways, thank you for coming on the show. You're freaking amazing.
Thank you. I want to say thank you for. I'm the first guy that
you are the first guy.
Yes,
on my
we made
show.
history.
Let's go. Let's go. You're the first guy. You'll be the first and always first guy on my show.
There you go.
But you'll be on here more than once, I'm sure.
And that picture's out now.
Oh my God.
It
made us take.
That's never been public.
The $8 like hamburger.
Yes, I had a $250,000 in my pocket that day.
That's insane.
That's cool, huh?
Yeah, I need $250,000 in my pocket. I'm ready. Okay,
I'll help you. You deserve it.
Thank you. Let's go.
Ciao.
I'm ready. Thank you guys for joining.
All right. Cheers.
Bye. Cheers.